Hi everyone, happy Sunday. So I'm actually kind of glad I decided to do this in a video instead of a live stream because I really didn't anticipate I don't know how much I had to look back because so this is basically a look back. I have been coloring for a little over 5 years now. I guess my official coloring anniversary is like in April. But my time, hang on, I'm opening a Coke. The way I feel, if I liked beer, I probably would have no qualms cracking open a beer right now. And spilling it all over myself. Um, but I officially started this channel. So this is basically a catch up. If you're relatively new to the channel, and I think most people probably are within the last year or two at least. Um, I've been doing this since 2018. I think June 5th was my official first video. I'm going to put that in the description if you want to go take a look. Funny enough, I don't really think I've changed all that much since that picture, except I've put on a little bit of weight and my hair's a little bit longer. I've switched from, well, no, I went back to the just plain hair for now, mostly just because I haven't been able to make it to a stylist. So really, I mean, I'm a little more dressed up. I have makeup on in that video. I actually thought about doing this video front facing. I kind of wanted to, but I have like my face is breaking out and I'm not feeling my best this weekend. My stomach's bugging me, and it took some pumping myself up to do this one. So I thought it was probably best for everyone if I didn't do this as front facing. Maybe I can do another. I have an idea for at least one or two other videos, and one of them might be front facing. So June 5th is when this channel started, and it started as Coloring Chats and Cats with Michelle. And, or maybe it was just Coloring Chats and Cats. I can't remember. But it was the best thing in the world because anytime anybody referenced my channel, like they got all mixed up, right? Which I loved. I thought that was the funniest thing. But it was a little, obviously a little difficult for people to remember. So after about a year or two, I can't remember if it was just within a year or two, I changed it to Kits and Caboodles, and that's where we're at today with the name change. Yeah, so we're just going to get started. I'm going to start talking about, basically I pulled this huge pile of books you saw in the thumbnail, and sorted it by year. It's not exact, like this was the month, but I at least got them sorted by year. There's some that kind of cover numerous years, and there were some I wasn't sure where to put, so we've got those. I've got the completed books I've finished over the years to show you. During this, I'll also kind of be talking about what my life was like during that year. Kind of feels like a recap of the past 5 years of my life. So if you want a recap of like pretty much the best of the best coloring I've done in the past 5 years, I'm going to show it here. I'm going to talk about how I got into coloring. I'm going to kind of reintroduce myself as a person. A lot going on in this video. Might do an official reintroduction. That might be one of my front facing. But the idea I had was I was looking at my initial videos, and there are a couple, like the 10 books I would take to a desert island with me, which surprisingly has been one of my top videos over the years. I think that's so funny. I want to redo that for the 5 year mark. There's also the 5 things I wish I knew when I started coloring that I did that first summer I've forgotten about. I'd like to do that one again too, and that might be a front facing video. I did a lot of front facing videos in the beginning. And then once I got my webcam and stopped using my phone as much, that changed. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. This is probably going to take a while, but this is a little bit different of a video. I do know that today is Father's Day, so a lot of people may be busy, but there's a lot of people out there that, maybe this is a hard day for them. Maybe they need a distraction from something. I'm not going to say that all of this is going to be super upbeat. My it was tough going through it and looking back, but I will try to keep a balance between the good and the bad as much as I can, so it's not super dreary. And I'm not going to do this every year, mind you. I just feel like 5 marks is a monumental mark in time. So I need to do a better job of chronicling my next 5 years so that at the 10-year mark, I could really, I could do 10 years worth. Can you imagine? Heck, I wouldn't have imagined I was here after 5 years. So who knows if any of us are going to be here in another 5 years, but okay. So with that introduction, and I do apologize, I am trying my best with my lighting. I have to decide whether I want it overly bright or if I want it out of focus and fuzzy. And that is pretty much the two options I get with my lighting these days. It's rather frustrating. So we're going to try to do this. All right. Okay, so 2018, around April, I had been working as a contractor in a remote job doing email marketing since 2013, just to bring us up to speed. 2013, I started that job. In 2012, I had graduated with my master's degree. I got my teacher certification, ended up never teaching. Found this remote job that I ended up working as a contractor for a number of years. I met my husband, reconnected with my now husband in 2012 too. 2013 was an awesome year. Went on hikes, felt really good. 2014 is when I started getting sick and having health issues. My husband had moved down here. 2016 and 15 were interesting because I was getting more involved in the community. I joined the city council because there was an opening, and was still working my remote job. My husband also works remotely. Still dealing, as much as I enjoyed the city council stuff, it did flare up a lot of my illness issues, having a lot of trouble with doctors trying to figure out what's wrong with me, doing blood work and stuff, telling me I'm fine, I'm not fine, not fine, dealing with a lot of different stuff. So we get to 2018. And still dealing with health issues, I'm still on the city council. I was trying to find something, because work was work and I couldn't be creative at work. I just did what I have experience in, which is email marketing. But I really didn't have opportunity to be creative, and I hadn't had one in years. And I suddenly got in the mood to want to do creative stuff. So I started having lessons, doing art lessons with a local artist that had a studio here in town for a brief period of time. And we started doing just regular art type stuff, which was great, but really hard for me to tap in after years of not being very creative. And I started finding, I don't know how I found them, but I started finding videos by Peta Hewitt at the time on YouTube, and she did adult coloring videos, and that was what started it all. I was like, oh, this is amazing, because I don't like to draw. I don't really want to draw. I just want to use color and use different mediums, and I want to put color on paper and make it pretty. I really just didn't want to do a lot of drawing myself at the time, right? So as I go through the art lessons, I end up being more inclined to start coloring rather than doing my own art. And that just felt like that was my speed at that point. And thus a a long standing hobby was began in the very beginning, because I had to be perfect with everything that I did as an art and artist, and using color and stuff. Like my art teacher was like, coloring's great, but you want to shade, and you want to layer, and you don't want to use heavy pressure and pick color palettes and stuff. So like I was obsessed with doing it the right way when I first started coloring. This was one of the first books I got, and you're like, I've never seen that book, Michelle. And that's because Jade Summer doesn't carry this one anymore. I'm assuming because of the title. I don't personally see a problem with it, but Amazon might, who knows. Which is very fitting, honestly, because when you look at this book, it is cats with a lot of zendoodles and tangle. And it's funny because they're new, they haven't released anything the past few years, and it's funny because they just released Amazing Dogs, and it has a very similar style to it. So I find it very funny that I'm showing you guys this book, and it was doubles. Very early on Jade Summer stuff, but I liked this. Like, I still do. Actually, looking back at it, I totally should. I think I'm going to go do a Back in Time series this year and maybe pick out some 2018 books to color in. This would be a good one because I really like the one with the eye patch. Anyway, my first picture I did in here was this one. And this was my first time using different mediums. I had marker. I think it was mostly permanent marker at the time. I had some sparkly gel pens that are still shiny, as you can see, maybe. There you go. After 5 years, that's pretty good. And then like there's marker, there's some pencil. I think I just had Prismacolor pencils at the time, so that's why it looks a little grainy. I did use baby oil as like a to try to blend out, which did really well, but it was just really heavy on the paper. It's finally dried after all these years. But that was my first attempt at just putting color down, and I just thought, I don't know, I thought it was fun to show you like my really early on stuff. Whoop, hitting this. One of the first, like, other than that, and I continue to watch Peter Hewitt, and it was funny because it had never occurred to me to look at like colorists on YouTube. I just thought Peter Hewitt was it. Like, I was watching, just binge watching all her videos during this time, and it just hadn't occurred to me that there might be other colorists on YouTube, right? And so the next official coloring book I picked up was Creative Cats and Creative Kittens by Marjorie Sarnett. And this was the one where I was like, okay, we're going to do this picture using pencil. I'm going to blend. I'm going to use layers. It took me forever, but to this day, it is still one of my favorite pictures. And a great lesson to me that if I do sincerely want to take my time, and I apologize because it is in a frame, of course. This was April of 2018. I'm trying. I should have took it out of the frame. There we go. It is Prismacolor, and I think it's just about all Prismacolor. I used the Playful Purple Bic Intensity for the background, and I think I used a few other little markers, but this was one where I did all the fiddly bits in pencil, everything in pencil, and it took forever, and it looks so good to this day, but it was so aggravating at the time. It felt like it was going to take forever to do this picture, but to this day I still love it. My love of space and cats really began. I don't think I've done any others. I've done one other in this one. I'll see if I can find a screenshot of it, because now I've got this big pile. At the end, I might try to do like a slideshow. It's going to be a combination of like the cats, like pictures of the art studio, probably screenshots of me. Like, it's just going to be basically a compilation of the last 5 years. And I don't know how long it'll be or what, but maybe I'll do that. And there'll be cats. So a lot of this is going to line up with new cats joining, other cats saying goodbye. So, like I said, I'm going to try to keep this relatively balanced. And then I actually did one in Creative Kittens, and this is the one I got a set of Cali art markers, and when I tell y'all, the majority of those Cali art markers were still coloring even the spring, and I gifted them to a friend because I knew she was running low on markers, and I was trying to pare down the markers I had, and but like those Cali art markers, I think to this day still are my favorite, like budget friendly markers after all the years. So just a tiny touch of gel pen. I did try a little bit of pencil. This is where I tried the Faber-Castell Polychromos on the Creative Haven paper, and I just did not like it. To this day, Prismacolor is where the pink is on the cats. I'll use Prismacolor all day long on this paper, but I just don't like the Polychromos on this. So I must have had Prisma and some Polychromos by this point. And I think this was actually a Tombow pen that then I went over with like a water pen or something to create that little bit of a wash. So just playing around with some different stuff. It was fun. Again, I really should do a retro because I don't think I've colored very much else out of these books since then. What other? This was out of, it's a Teresa Goodrich book. I can't remember the name of it. No, this one's on a video, I think, for that first year. I used pencil. I think when we went to Too Many Games that year, I took this with me and worked on it some. Used a bunch of pencil, used ink tints for like the stones and the water. Used some Tombow brush pens on a palette and like painted on and then shaded over in a lot of these. Like this took a lot of time and effort, and I'm trying to remember which book this was from, and I can't remember. I really can't. Absolutely does not come to. Yeah. Who knows? But it was one of her books. Maybe it's on the back written. Maybe I was smart enough to do that, but who knows? And then that summer, I picked up, this was out of Hannah Lynn. I think it was the Mermaids book of hers. I used, and I still have them. What are they called? I think they've been renamed to something else these days. They're oil-based pencil, and they were a budget-friendly pencil, and I used them on here, and I really like how it turned out. This was a little muted for me, because, again, I've been big on color over the years, and you're like, wow, Michelle, you did a lot of pencil shading, at the beginning. Yes, I did, because I thought that was just the right way to color. Like, that is how you color. If you can't color like that, then you shouldn't be coloring. Like, I thought that was the only way, because that was how I watched PETA color, and that's how my art teacher told me to color. I have one out of Lost Ocean. I did with Arteza pencils. So I was picking up a lot of pencils those first 2 years. And I didn't like them as much on the Joanna Basford paper, but I still like how this turned out. And then I tried to use a pastel around it, and to this day I still laugh because I'm like, it looks like it's floating through like pea colored water. Like some really sketchy water at the end of like a sewer pipe or something. So did not know what I was doing with the pastels back then. That was my first attempt with using them in the background. But you can see, like, so over the years, what I do, if I use any sort of pencil or pastel, I've sprayed with a fixative. Like the Fix-It, I've used the Mod Podge, I've used a couple different ones, and all the ones I've sprayed, I don't really see a lot of fading on. So, not bad for 5 years, right? So, Magical Jungle. Let's take a look in here real quick. Magical Jungle I've done a lot in. Oh, okay. So I started getting into coloring challenges. So started expanding out a little bit. I don't know where I saw this, or maybe this wasn't a challenge. It was a hey, color this page for the month. I started getting into some coloring groups, and it was like color this page out of Magical Jungle. And I did, but I didn't want to do it like normal, so I did an inverse where I used all the different grays out of like Prismacolor and stuff for the leaves, and then colored the elephant green. I just thought the inverse of colors would be fun. This one got a little messy because I learned if you wet pastel, or if you put pastel on before stuff dries, and then put wet on, like it smears and it doesn't look real good. I broke down and used a marker right here. I had tried something on this page behind. I have another copy of Magical Jungle now just because I have some books. You know, this is where I've made a couple errors. That was fun. I did this one. To this day, I'm so proud of this one still. It had to be gesso because I just was using gesso early on. I used gesso, Tombows, and gel pens on this. And I used the Tombows together on here to create some blends like in these leaves. I used like a water brush pen with just some colors to pull them out. Like that's how I did the book and stuff. And to this day, I'm still really proud of this one. I don't know why I don't do more pages like this, because this was a really, I struggle using water-based mediums, like using any kind of water in Joanna Basford books, but like this gesso just made it. And plus, I wasn't doing a ton of like background stuff and whatever. It was just in small spaces. Like this was really successful. Why I haven't done this again, I couldn't tell you. Life. Well, at some point, I end up starting to get into markers. And the lady who got me into markers, as we all know and love, she is still around doing videos, which I love, even though she does all kinds of different videos for her different hobbies now, is Anne. At the time it was just A Colorful Life, but now it's Anne's Colorful Life. Started watching her 5 years ago. And she is the one that got me started on YouTube. When I started seeing her color in chats, because she did things very different. Peter Hewitt is very like a Chris Chang or something, kind of like a color along where they don't talk a lot about, it's not like a color in chat or anything. It's more like a color along. And Anne's channel was really the first one I found that was more like color in chat and using alcohol markers in books, which I hadn't really done all that much up to that point. And just her style of being laid back and talking about her life. And that's really what got me to thinking I want to do a channel, because that's the kind of channel I want to have, which was funny because when I first started, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do a lot of coloring chats because I'm nervous about talking about myself on a camera. And I know some of y'all right now are like, you got to be kidding, right? That is exactly what this channel turned into. So it's so funny. And that was one of the things I think I said about what I wish I knew when I started coloring, was just what you plan may not always be what things turn out to be. So I thought that was funny. But she's really what encouraged my love of alcohol markers. And while I love all kinds of coloring, I gotta say the alcohol markers and water-based markers, like brush markers like the Arteza Roll Brush pens, have really carried me mostly over the 5 years. Though oddly, I'm getting back into some pencil right now. So anyway, so here's one from Enchanted Forest. I picked up all the Joanna Basford books that summer. This one, I actually used some alcohol marker. This was, starting to get into the fall that year. I used Prismas. I used alcohol markers. I used a ton of stickles, like you can see here. And this was so fun. And this is the only page I've done in this book. So 2018, like the coloring and the channel all started out well, but it was really wild, y'all, because it turned out, golly, this is going to be a long video. You can always leave and come back. So I will put these by years, I think, in timestamps. That way you guys can skip on if you need to. But so it turns out, you know, again, what I planned for the start of this channel is not what it ended up being, because um, I'd had I've had cats for like 20 years. I initially had 3. It grew to about 7 there right at the start of my second marriage, and then at one point 13 was my high, and since then, um, really only a couple have been added, like 2, but then over the years, just age and illnesses have brought that number down. We are now down to 4. Um, and but when I went through my second divorce in 2011, I had one pass away right when all that happened, which was hard. That was a Zoomy. That was that first set of 4 that I lost. She was the last one. And then I had 11. And I had 11 for, I was so lucky, really was, to have 11 cats, and for them all to be, I mean, they came up with health issues, but to be able that they all lived a good healthy life up until 2018, like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful because that was a huge time, tumultuous, am I saying that right, time in my life. Well, it's really, you know, been like the last decade, but to have that consistency of them being healthy and happy, like, I'm to this day, you know, so grateful. And it's weird how things happen at certain times in your life. Like, I started the channel, and then about 2 months later, or even a month later, I think it was just a little over a month later, my cat Felix passed away. And Felix was the very first cat that I had owned. And so it was going to be hard anyway, but like, that was the first one I'd lost in 7 years or 6 years, and it was the very first cat that I had. Like, me and him just had a bond, and I was crushed. And where I live, so I live, if you didn't watch my very first video I posted in the description, I live about an hour north of Nashville. I'm really close to the Tennessee-Kentucky state line. And I live in a very rural area, and just around here, at least at that point in time, it's a little better now, but at that point in time, people just, the people I knew in my life, like, not online, weren't big animal people. Like, they just didn't have the bond with their animals that I did. And so it was hard to find a lot of support. I felt kind of alone. Like, my husband, of course, was supportive, but like, I didn't really have anybody in my life that was super supportive. But y'all just came through on that channel when I, you know, got to the point I could talk about it and work through it. Like, the channel was a huge help to me, and it has been ever since, like, for so many things. I just can't tell y'all. Like, I want to say all the really sappy stuff at the end about you guys and how much I love you guys, and love everybody. I say you guys and gals. Don't want to offend anybody, but like, it really shocked me how positive the coloring community was, and I've been a part of a lot of internet groups over the years, and I gotta say, while we have our healthy share of drama here and there, it's like 10% compared to a lot of groups that I'm a part of, and to this day is still just really positive and supportive. We have certain things that are controversial, but at the end of the day, I think a good 70-80% of us are non-judgmental and just very supportive, even for non-coloring things, when our coloring friends are going through it in life. And it was just, it was a area of support I did not expect. And it helped even more because not even, like, couple months later, I lost my cat Cal. Felix, we knew he was getting slowly worse, but he suddenly went into kidney failure because of all the steroids he had had to take. It would have really affected his kidneys. Cal was out of the blue. He started having some breathing issues. We thought it was a respiratory infection, but he had had a tumor growing we didn't know about, and it had metastasized, and it just, so his was very sudden. So I went from not having lost any cats for 6 years to losing two in 2 months. And an outdoor cat I had sort of adopted, a not my cat, Flearoy, got very sick, and I couldn't bring him in, but I took him to the vet, and it turns out he was in the end stages of feline leukemia and FIV. So basically 3 cats in 2 months, and it was a very hard year. I had that. I had gastroparesis. I was sick, stomach-wise, like all of 2018, and I couldn't understand it. I could go eat a cheeseburger at Wendy's and feel great. I could eat a salad and just be miserable and bloated and sick for days. Throwing up. Um, I had an incident. That was the year I started falling in love with cotton candy blizzards. Jennifer Stay, by the way, Coloring Bliss, is still posting, by the way. She was someone else I found that year. I picked up one of her custom coloring books that I still have, and I did do a picture in here in honor of Felix. I think it was like a Christmas in July picture, because it was right after he passed away. Where is it? Here it is. And he was black and white. He's probably going to be part of the little slideshow I do at the end, but I did this in honor of him, and this was another picture I did in there that I just want to show y'all. I don't know why I have a printed out copy and then I have a perfectly good copy here, but I've been sick all year. Fell in love with cotton candy blizzards from Dairy Queen, but I had an incident with a cotton candy blizzard. When I tell you, all my husband had to practically help carry me into the bedroom. I was throwing up and I was so sick. And the stomach doctor I had was a pain in the ass, excuse me. Went through numerous appointments. He was not taking me seriously. We did do an endoscopy to check for ulcers, but couldn't find anything. But that was all he wanted to do. And finally got to the point I said something where I said, I don't feel like eating all day, but then I get hungry and I eat, and then it seems like I don't get hungry again all day. And apparently that was something they didn't even bother to ask me about. So they tested me for a condition called gastroparesis, which is like severely slowed down digestion. And I had to go to Nashville. It involved putting like radiation in an egg, me eating the egg, and me staying absolutely still for 2 hours while they took pictures of my stomach. And turns out that's what it was. And I have a sensitivity to dairy, so like cheese doesn't bother me, but like straight up milk and straight up ice cream does. So I have to be careful how much of that I consume, and like that was irritating everything on top of that, and it was just, that was what was happening. But it was a really hard year because I was just so sick off and on all year and wasn't getting any answers. Million Christmas Cats was one I did that year. Did not care at the time about coloring through, so I used alcohol marker and gel pen, which is still around. That gel pen has stayed pretty well. I picked up another copy of this, so I had those, because I also used some marker that bled through, like in this picture. So let's see, that was my last year on the city council. I decided not to run for re-election because I was burnt out. The gastroparesis was kind of the final straw where I felt sick. This is also the year that I really got into using my Arteza Real Brush pens. And this was from Autumn Scenes by Teresa Goodrich. I love using them in Teresa Goodrich books. I think I used a regular marker in the back here and like in the window, but like the leaves, I used some distress ink to kind of give this a grainy stained look. I love how my kitty and my dog turned out. That was like my favorite thing. I feel like this might have faded a touch, but it was pretty dark to begin with, so I don't typically spray my marker, like fix my marker pages. It's usually anything I use pencil or pastel on. Let's show a few others here. My first year coloring was my big year at Ollie's. That was where I got a ton of Creative Haven books for like 99 cents each, or $1.99. I found this book, which was Cats by May Demoiselle. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I have 2 copies of this, and this was a page I had done. I was playing around a little bit with some gel pen that bled through, but I still love how this turned out. This was so fun. So and this was the year I started this page. That one I was just trying out a bunch of different pencils. I started this out with the Amazon Basic pencils. I still have them, and this has been a whip for 5 years. Who knows? Maybe one day, out of the blue, I will finish it. But this is a fun little book. Yeah, it was a deal where a bunch of people tried to get involved. Oh, that's next year. A bunch of people tried to get involved. Oh, here's a coloring challenge I did. This was from this year. It was using one pencil. I think I ended up in the coloring group's banner for the month for this. It was like a blue violet or something, Prismacolor, and this is out of Romantic Country 2. I did that one that year. But no, I was sick. The city council had made me stressed and sick. Enough. Everybody wanted change, but nobody wanted to get involved, and I was just burnt out and tired, and I just knew I couldn't keep doing it, and my health was going to continue to deteriorate, so left that. And that was also the year that my parents sold their house in the country and actually moved to the town they're at now, which was kind of funny. When I was looking through Facebook, I'm like, wow, it really has been 5 years. All right, 2019 was so there's 2018. It took like 40 minutes. It's okay. So a lot of these years are going to go faster because that was kind of the start. 2019 was not a monumental year per se. Like there wasn't anything super shattering earth shattering except a cat loss that year. So that was the year I changed the name. This is still to this day probably my favorite Halloween book. This is the Spooktacular Halloween Adult Coloring Book. And I have pictures in here not just from that year, but I want to show them all. So this is the year I was really getting into that book. This was a marker base with pencil over it. And then I used like a gold pen there. One year I did this in all watercolor pencil. And I can't remember. It might have been Albert Dürer. No, that was on the stone. I'm not sure what the rest of it was. One year I did this using shimmer paint and marker. Actually, just a lot of paint and marker. And that turned out cool. I did that one using a bunch of alcohol marker. Some of the marker, this is about the time I started figuring out a lot of the marker I like to use, like sea yellow. So I had to start getting choosy. Oh, you can see some glitter there too. This is such a fun book. I love the puns in it. I think that's all I've done in here so far. I did buy another copy because of the yellowing. I haven't done that as much recently. Yeah, I think that's all I've done. Haven't done that as much recently, but back then when I was really trying different things and stuff, it was a thing. So this is 2019. I think this was 2019. I did this one from Kawaii Winter and Christmas. This is by Just to Kawaii. This was marker with pencil. This is the year I really started doing that a lot, and I always loved how those turned out. And that one, like I said, is kept really well over the years. And I think I did this one in just pencil, Enchanting Fairy Tale Scenes. I can tell you based, yeah, this was 2018, so this makes sense. So I did this one entirely in Black Widow pencil. And I know I didn't color it, like, I guess, appropriate to the fairy tale. It says east of the sun and west of the moon. But I saw this picture and I just said, he's got to be a pink bear. He's got to be a pink bear. He's going to be pink. So, was pleased with that. In terms of my life, let's see. So, we've been doing too many games. Jeez. I think it's our 7th year. So, we've been going, my brother and I have been going to an expo convention in outside of Philadelphia every year since, I think, 2016. And so we went that year, and that was a big year because my brother actually got picked for, they were doing trivia, and they were doing challenges for old video games. And my brother got picked from his ticket, and he won, and he actually won a Nintendo Switch that year, which was super awesome. That was probably the highlight of the year to me, for sure. Well, that was one of the highlights. That was also the year that I believe we got both Leroy and Annie. I really thought we had gotten them like one year and one the next, but those were where we added to our crew. Leroy showed up probably the winter before. I was going to try to keep him outside, but I had a house. It was a bad winter. I had a house set up for him. I was worried sick about him. I left him outside after I got him neutered for about 6 weeks just to see if some of the craziness, territorialness of him would calm down. And it did. But I finally just got to the point where I was like, okay, he's coming in. So, and I asked my husband very, very nicely. And he came in. He was a pretty quick adjustment. Then Annie, man, yeah, I guess it was. Annie was a cat who had been outside. I've been working on her for the better part of a year. And she was this tiny, tiny little tiger-striped cat. And she was so quiet and so timid. I finally got her to the point where she'd come up to me and chirp, and she'd rub around my legs for me to feed her. And so I thought I could just pick her up and put her in the carrier and take her to the vet. She went Tasmanian Devil on me, chewed up my hand. Then she went to the vet, and I dropped her off, and they called me 20 minutes later. They thought she was one of my regular cats and not a stray. So the vet tech had just reached in there to grab her, thinking she was perfectly fine, and she bit her, and it was a thing. I ended up having to keep her in a crate for 10 days because she hadn't had a rabies shot yet, and the Department of Health in that county needed to be able to see her to make sure, that she hadn't had rabies. The tech had to get rabies vaccinations, which I've had to do that for. Surprisingly, my bite was fine. And when I took her out of the cage to take her so the Department of Health could look at her, she bit me again. After all that, you would think, why in the world did you want this cat? But she was so just terrified of the world, and she was so tiny and timid, and after we got all that straightened out, it took 2 months of her hiding under the bed in this room for her to come up to me and let me touch her. And we went through so much with her. And that was such a fun year with her and Leroy, because Leroy is such a goofy personality. He brought a lot, because the cats were getting older, they were all getting fat and lazy. It was just nice to have a young cat that, with half a brain cell, just doing crazy things. He was always good for a laugh. And Annie, it was so, she just blossomed. Like, she looked so timid, and I thought she would just let the other cats run over her. And I saw her one day, Bagheera being my biggest cat, I saw her one day steal Bear's food bowl, and she was by far the smallest cat. And I just was like, she rules over a lot of cats in this house for being such a timid cat. It was just anyway. So it was a good year for the cats that year, except that we lost Quixote right around the middle of the year. We think it was something neurological. It suddenly developed. We were never 100% sure. It could have been a tumor. That's going to be a theme, weirdly, with mine. I don't know why, but that was really hard. And Leroy helped a lot with that. Mythical Maidens by Hannah Lynn. Actually did, I've had some luck. I think I used gelatos in the background here, and then used a water brush pen, and then the rest of it's markers with a pencil overlay. I think I've had a lot of luck with like limited water on Amazon papers, like watercolor pencils or gelatos. I've actually had some luck with. So let's see. Christmas that year I did, was it that year? Really? Oh, so like a color by number. This was I really started getting into George Tufexis a lot. Actually, I'm surprised he hasn't already come up. But this was one of the pictures I did. No, it was this one. It was this one. Was the one I wanted to show. Because, of course, I'd done all the cat-related ones out of it. That, again, was the year that we changed the name on the channel. I think that was the year, at the end of the year, it got real hard because Mom fell and broke her shoulder. I had to help out a lot there. The end of 2019 and going into 2020, things started getting a little tough. A little more tough. So, big surprise, I guess, to anybody from 20... we all know what happened in 2020. This was a picture I'd done with markers from Spring Miniatures by Camellia Angel Cova. This was... colored it like Sidonia. And there's a little bit of yellowing happening, but it's not too bad. And I used just some marker blending. And to this day, I still love this picture. I used a little bit of pastel around here. But I just love the colors, and I thought it turned out so cute. So yeah, one of the problems my mom had been having was she was having to take blood thinners due to her arrhythmia. She had had a hole in her heart. They didn't find until she was in her 30s. They fixed it, but because of all the extra work her heart had done, like now, she has some ongoing health issues because of that. And because of some of that stuff, they had to put her on blood thinners. She was having a lot of GI bleeds over the course of like 2018, 2019. Really, honestly, if she'd stayed on the blood thinners, she wouldn't still be here. It got real bad in 2019, in 2018, where she had fell and broke her shoulder, and then just she kept having to go back for different bleeds, and they were desperately trying to get her in the surgery for something called a Watchman device. So in your heart, you have a little notch. I guess it's like an evolutionary notch for some reason. And it's just this little extra little notch in your heart. And that's where blood clots can form. And those are like the big blood clots that they worry about, like the serious ones that can kick off in your body and cause a stroke. Because she had AFib. That's what I'm trying to think of. She was more susceptible to it, which is why she was taking blood thinners. It was because of that notch. They were worried she would develop a blood clot there. And so the Watchman device is something they put in there into that notch, and it scars over and it smooths it out so that a clot can't form there. So people that get on that, then if they don't, if there wasn't any other reason they couldn't be on blood thinners, or they had to be on blood thinners, like then you can just take baby aspirin, or depending on your health, nothing at all. And which is more common these days, but right at the beginning of 2020 she got approved for it. And I knew something was coming down in February with COVID, because I was watching the news. I was on Twitter a lot. We had already started stocking up food. I just knew it was going to happen. And fortunately, so mom was scheduled to have her surgery the second week of March. And like the week or two after that's when it all started. Had she not had it done then, because you know that year they were putting off surgeries and stuff, had she not had it done then, I don't know when she would have had that surgery. And in all honesty, she had a major bleed happen right after she had that procedure done, that like they had to go in surgically and stop it. Like, I don't think she would be here. That saved her life, and I am forever grateful that she was able to get that, because I know there's a lot of people that, you know, probably passed that year because they missed out on surgeries that could have saved her life. And it just, I'm grateful that she was able to get it. But anyway, it's 2020 is definitely when it started getting rough. That was also the year that I was started doing the 10 books to finish. So costume cats I was working in. As you can see, I really need to get back to that. I started off so well. I was just doing straight marker and then just a few things added in. Wasn't anything. But one of my favorite pictures ever come out of this book. For some reason, this picture, I just see her as like this madam of a house of ill repute. And of course this her name is Miss Kitty, right? It's got to be Miss Kitty. And I wanted to do, sometimes you see a picture and you're like, this picture deserves extra effort. And that's what happened here. I did the marker base, then I went over with the pencil, I added in the little dots of decoration on her lace. I had so much fun with this picture, and I just thought she turned out so fun. Like I said, I just see her as a madam of a house of ill repute is what I like to refer to it as, and it still puts a smile on my face. That just, like I said, sometimes you just get inspired, and that one was a real inspiration for me. So yeah, 2020, we kind of did like everybody else. We were pretty fortunate in that we already both worked remotely. So with my health issues, I already had long chronic health issues with that I had developed since I got sick with mono in 2014. I might have gotten COVID in April of that year. We're still not sure, but I developed some issues since then that make me wonder. I tested negative, but I was coughing and I was sick like I hadn't been in a long time, and my O2 was down, and just, I don't know. If I did, I may have gotten a very small, because I had been masking at the time, I may only have gotten, a low viral load or whatever, but that's really the only time. I've been very, very, very fortunate in that. I think if I've had COVID, that's the only time I've had it. We were both working remotely, so we were able to stay home. We do major grocery stock ups, and we were using pickup that year, so we could really limit and we're both introverts anyway, so we just didn't go out much, which, I mean, really wasn't all that different from our normal lives anyway. So we were lucky. We didn't really have to adjust that much. I did do a really fun one that year, I think around Halloween. Magical Fairies by Marjorie Sarnett. I saw this picture. Please tell me it's still in here. Okay, good. I wanted to do a picture of the Sanderson sisters based off of Hocus Pocus. And so I did this picture. And we talked about Hocus Pocus during the video, and it was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoy doing the movie themed ones when I get inspired. I have another one in here that I'll show you that I did based on a movie, and they're just fun. That year was, so let's see what else happened. So we really got into puzzles again after getting into those. My husband and me and I like to do puzzles. When they get done, we Mod Podge them, and then we like put them up on the wall. We got into those that year. We did not have too many games that year because of now I've gotten off track here. 2023, 22, 21. Okay, we're still in 2020. No, you're not getting up here. Nope, nope, not right now. Um, One thing that happened that year that was tough was Annie passed away. So, as you know, we had just gotten her the year before. She was only about 2, and she suddenly started getting sick. And ran all kinds of tests. Probably the only thing I didn't do was take her to a specialist in Nashville, but she got so sick so quick. Like, seriously, like 2 months, a month, 2 months was all we had. And I don't think I would have been able to get some into somebody at the quick enough. She just started going, I mean, she had become such a personality. Like, she would get on me on the bed. She had gotten brave enough where she'd get on me on the bed at night when I was on there, and she'd lay on my legs. She loved letting me pet her, but she had to come to me to be pet. I couldn't go to her. She would whine around my legs, wag her tail, because something had happened to it. It wasn't quite long enough like a normal tail, so she would wag it, kind of like Cal did his. And she just chirped, and she was so silly, and she had blossomed into such a personality, and just not having to be afraid all the time. And I was so excited to see, like, her and I were really developing a bond. And I'm sorry, I'm fighting with Leroy. This is the one day he cannot get up on this desk because I just don't have room for him. So he's just going to have to deal. I'm sure he will, no worries, he will get cuddled later. But it was like she got sick and then she was gone. And the vet, I mean, they ruled out everything. She kept getting fluid buildup in her lungs and in her abdomen. They tested her for FIP. They said it was negative, but to this day I still wonder because it really feels like it was FIP. We tried steroids, which gave her some time. It gave her probably about another good month. But I mean, it had gotten to the point towards the end where my husband could hold her, and she had never been able, like, she would let me come up to her and give her medicine, and we were giving her fluids, and like she had never been able to let us do that till then. And it was heartbreaking because I was grateful that she trusted us, but I was also like, she's feeling so sick that she doesn't want to run and fight us. And it was the hard one. They're all hard, but hers was so hard because she was so young, and we just didn't know. The vet thought at the end it might be lupus, but in cats, lupus is, they've got to, basically run through any other diagnosis. There's no specific test for it, and the only treatment you have is steroids, and we'd already done that, and she'd had fluid drained constantly, and it just one minute she started getting sick, next minute she was gone. And I know 2020 was hard on everyone, and like that, just all the cats passing over the years have rocked my world, but like that one just rocked it in a different way, and because of COVID I felt guilty because I felt like maybe I wasn't taking her to the vet as much as I should be because of COVID and stuff, and I wasn't. I was doing exactly what I needed to do, but it just, at the end, I couldn't help her. And anyway, so that was 2019, or 2020, excuse me. Oh, well, and to boot, we lost Tiger later that year. And Tiger was my second longest cat I'd had. I got him 6 months after Felix. And he had had kidney stones for years. The concern was that one day they would try to move into the bladder and get stuck. And you can't just go into a cat and surgically remove those. And it would cause him so much pain that there would, unless we did a huge intake of fluids to try to see if it would pass, there's really nothing you could do. And that's exactly what happened, is he had one get stuck. And she said it might be a 20% chance if we just inundate him with fluids, but he was in so much pain, and he was older. I mean, him and I think he made it to 18. Felix made it to 16 or 17, and Tiger made it to 18, and so lost 2 that year. So yeah, it was a hard year. Um, I did some watercolor pencil pictures that year, which were really fun. This back and forth is really weird, I know, but it's the only way I can think of to keep this balanced. Um, so I'm not getting completely distraught and unable to continue. But I picked up this collection, this cat's collection from Coloring Heaven, and these pictures from Jess Erskine were awesome. They're like food based, like cats and food. And I did these two in watercolor pencils, and I love them because they're just so angry. To this day, I still need to find frames for these. I did end up buying the book these were related to, so now I have copies of those, but they're also on Amazon paper, so the Coloring Heaven paper's a little better, but these are just the cutest pictures. And those are so much fun to do. They were just so angry. The cat hamburger was just great. That year I did a Country Cats one from Jade Summer. I did this one, which was just marker. I actually used my Copics on this one, and he turned out so cool. I really liked this one. This was a Halloween one, and it just turned out so pretty, even with like the marker blending. And this is marker blending on Amazon paper. It can be done. It just, you gotta work quick with it, you know. Even Color to Spider. I mean, that year was a year I really got into some pencils. So Annie had passed in June or July, and I had this Animal Wonderland special from Coloring Heaven, and I looked at this first page, and just one day I said, you know what, I want to color this with pencil, and I spent months, at least a couple months on this. I think I just used Castle Arts, and this was her, you know, sleeping in this little garden, and it helped. It helped process things. Slowing down, just using pencil, which wasn't something I had done really since 2018. I also did this picture from Cats and Kittens using I had done this on a cardstock and used my Arteza real brush pens, and it turned out real pretty. My dedication pages to my cats are very random. Like, I have 3 for Annie, one for a couple different ones, but some of them have been so hard to deal with. Like, in some ways, this one was one I did with Annie, or for Annie. Like, I needed all these pages for Annie, but then Tiger passed away, and I don't think that was another page I did last year with Tammy. I've done quite a few. I've done a few in here. But, like, when Tiger passed away, I didn't do a page for him because I just needed to grieve in a different way. And, I can't remember where we're at here. I think this was 2020. I did this page. This was when I first started finding the shimmer paint from Ranger Ink, and this picture still, I think, is the cutest. I don't normally do a big pink, bright, I don't know, like, I stay away from a lot of pink, but this pink and orange and green, I really like this palette. I'd like to use it again, to be honest. This was from Kawaii Witch by Loriza May. I did another Christmas cat that year. This was a buddy color with somebody. I did this entirely in markers, and look at that yellowing. I used a whole bunch of now it's not too bad on the other pages. I can't remember what markers. I think I used a lot of my Arteza Everblends, the original. I'm not saying the new ones do it. I tried to use some paper to help, but sometimes it even went through the paper. But that was a lot of marker blending and then gel pens and stuff, and that was real pretty. I also had been doing email marketing that year, and right after mom's surgery, or right before mom's surgery, I found out that they were ending my contract the end of February because they were moving the email to a different group. And I found another role within the company with my old boss and had started it that year, but it was all new stuff that I had never really done before. So yeah, 2020, big surprise, was not a good year. So, all right, 2021, yes, or are we in? Lord, I've already gotten distracted. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, this is 2021. We're right. We're right. It's good enough. Okay. 2021. We lost Oreo right at the beginning of the year, around February. He had had kidney failure, but we were managing it. And he had had this weird little tick for the last couple of years that we had used gabapentin, we thought it was he was having these little mini seizures. And he got to the point where he couldn't eat or drink. Like, he would just stare at the water, but it's like he couldn't make the connection to drink. And he also couldn't sleep. He got just really sick there at the end, and we don't know if it was a tumor, we don't know if it was neurological. Again, this seemed to happen a lot with these cats, and I think, as my vet said, the reason why is because we're managing all the other ailments that would normally take these cats out. And so, like, if they have a tumor or something, it metastasizes to other places. Where she suspected where Oreo had that seizure tick thing for a couple of years, that he just had a slow growing tumor. That was tough, of course. Let's see. I started in this was going to be a big project book. This was the very first page I did in here. This was going to be the book that I add in a bunch of extra stuff. So I added in these, it's like a little comic books where they go, boom, pow. I thought those would be funny. I did the little gelato type background. And I did this picture, and I drew in everything around him. And I was so proud of myself for actually drawing in and adding to a coloring page. And that was the last one I did. I haven't done any since. Let's see, that was that the year I really started doing watercolor stuff? I think so. Yeah. Or maybe it was the next year. I did play around with ink tints, and yeah, now I'm starting to get all screwy because I can't remember. I did do this really cool picture. Where are you? Here it is. I had followed along with Kirsty Color and Sketch, I think, on YouTube, and she'd done this picture entirely using ink tints and white gel pen and some gel pen, regular shiny gel pens, and I did that and had so much fun and was like, I need to do another picture like this. Have I done one? No. This was my year of George Tufexis. I really started embracing him. Not all of these are from that year, but I just figured let's do them all together. Spectacular Spring Scenes is one of my favorite books of his. My favorite thing to do in here, of course, are all the cat pictures first, but I have done other pages. That was a buddy color. Ren and I do a lot of buddy colors in here. Wow, that's the old flag. I love that one with the turtle. I thought I did one more with a cat, but maybe I didn't. But this was one of my favorites of his. Well, guess not. I could have sworn. I'm sure it was another book. He has a cat's color by number. I've been doing pages in. This, of course, would be a great one to complete. Autumn Inspirations. This is, I think, my second favorite of his. And, yeah, these are ones I definitely did this year. I love how smug the cat is on the pumpkin right here. I think he's fantastic. Lord, we're already at an hour. Another smoked kitty on pumpkins. This is where I was still using some different markers. It wasn't till probably later in 2021 that I started using like the tau trees, and look at the difference in the color like depth. That compared to like this, which was like Copic and Prismacolor. They just had a little bit more of a dull faded look on here, but those tau tree markers are super bright. Let's see. Oh yeah, 2020 we did not go to too many games because of course they canceled it. The next year, 2021, they had it, but they had it in October. So that was interesting to go to a different time of the year to Philadelphia. I did a 5K walk and fundraiser that year. 2021 was the year I did the 3-year, is that right? 1, 2, yeah, 3-year anniversary, and I did a fundraiser for a local animal rescue. And we raised $1,000 total for them. I did like a 4-hour live stream and all this different stuff, and it's pouring rain. That's really weird. So it was a really cool year. Like, I was really proud of myself for that fundraiser. You guys donated and helped me raise the funds for that. I did a 5K walk to go towards that. Did a video about it. And I enjoyed the 5K walk because, of course, we were outside. I felt it was safe because it was outdoors. Still very COVID cautious. That was the year of the giant spider, if y'all remember that story, where I found that gigantic spider in the with all the cat food in the back cat room, and that was the biggest thing I ever seen, biggest spider I ever seen in my life. My husband had to come kill it. I was just frozen on the spot. It was awful. We got a window bird feeder that year. Some of this stuff probably seems minor, but we got a new HVAC system later that year. Like, there were a lot of things happening in 2021. Like I said, this was the year I really started the 10 books to finish. I had a really cool picture in here that y'all don't see very often. But I always thought, because it was another just deep marker blend, I always thought this picture turned out so pretty. And I was so proud of my little, like, baby turkey because I used the white gel pen to do highlights. I don't know. This picture I just was really proud of and just never talk about much. I did quite a few in Caboodles Cuteness Overload. And stuff has yellowed. I'm probably going to have to buy another one of these, to be quite honest. And you'll see why. So I did this one. This was kind of in honor of all my cats, you know, past and present. And Felix was driving the truck, and of course all the different cats are on here. Tiger's on the burger, and all the different ones were represented up there. And I did, this one was a limited color palette. I just had picked random markers. This one to this day is still one of my favorites. You can see how horrifically it's yellowed. But I did this one, I think, that year, and it just turned out amazing. I love my multicolored cats, but it yellowed so bad, I think I'm just going to have to buy another copy of this book. I think that was, yeah, I started getting a little more in the watercolor pencils this year. I did this one at the very end here in Best Dressed Pets. I actually used the image here as a little bit of an inspiration. I went a little oranger on the cat, but that was super fun. Watercolor pencils do really well on this paper. One TMG, I don't think it was that year, but one of those years we went to too many games, I did this, which actually ended up on featured on Lulu Mayo's Instagram, which I thought was cool. I think I used all Black Widows in this one. It was a 2-page spread I worked on. The other big thing that happened that year was, oh yeah, the 10 books to finish. So one of the books I was really trying to finish was Whimsy Girls Celebrate the Holidays and Festive Occasions, and I was doing so good. I apologize for the shiny here, but like we have her. That was my University of Kentucky fan. I did gelatos in the background and ink tints on this one. I really tried to do a lot of different things in this book. And that was one of the things that slowed me down, is because I started trying to get real creative with this. And so it really started slowing me down. Like, that picture turned out great. That was just blending markers. This one, I wanted to do the 90s, late 80s, early 90s baby shower with like the lacquered wood walls and her blonde hair with the dark roots, and then that kind of teal and pink kind of color scheme, the bright colors. I wanted to do the Mother's Day one instead of really sappy. I wanted to make them zombies. So this was the one I did based on Beetlejuice. So this is my other movie inspired picture I did. I've done a couple others in the book out of order. She turned out really shiny and pretty. I think this was a buddy color. The rest, no. I did that one year. I love the color scheme on that one. And then I had a couple buddy colors with Kathy from Spicy Cat Colors, shimmer paint and marker in this one. Same thing here, shimmer paint and marker. Wasn't just 2021, but 2022 as well. If I really stuck to it, I could probably get it done this year. I really could. But, well. 2021 is when Maggie passed away, and I also had a very close bond to Maggie, and that was again, a whole different level of difficulty for a lot of different reasons. He, again, had been sick for a while with just older cat issues, but all of a sudden got real sick, and his was, they suspected he had some type of bone marrow or blood cancer. And he was such a constant in my life. Like, he was alpha cat in the house. Him and Leroy would butt heads a lot. But he always went to bed with me every night, got under the blankets next to me, was just very, he was a stub-tailed cat, and if you've ever met any type of stub-tailed or no-tailed cat, you know they always carry a lot of extra personality with them. And I guess it's because they don't have as much tail, so they got to compensate or something. But they always are just, I've never met one that's just lazy and doesn't really do much. They're always bouncy and full of personality, and he was no different. And it was just, it felt so hollow. It felt so quiet when he passed away. All right, 2022. I know this is running very long. 2022 is really when I started getting into some watercolor stuff, a lot more, using some different mediums. 2022 is going to be a very quiet year for the most part. We were doing Foxy February. I think actually we started Foxy February. No, we started this one in 2021. Is this from 2021? Jesus. Yeah, I'm still in 2021. Sorry, guys. We did a Foxy February that February, which I did this page using gelatos, and then like used Sargent Art watercolor crayons in the back, and my little nebulas turned out to be blobs. This was really a first attempt, and while I love how the gelato went down with the pencil overlay, like, I hate how this turned out. So, and had I done this over, I would have just stuck with one or two colors here, but hey, it was pretty good for a first attempt. And I think to this day, even treating that black still wants to come off. No, we're still in 2021, I know, because I got to show y'all. This was using Arteza watercolor pencils, and I'm not a pastel fan, but I love how this turned out. That's from A Million Owls. Cute Witches. This was a page I did for Maggie, and that's how I know these are still 2021. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's that one. I did a marker base with a pencil overlay. And what I did with the little kitty, I wish I hadn't made her cape so dark. But what I did with the little kitty, if you can probably see it, is I just colored the rest of the tail in like the cape and just made him a little stub tail kitten. Because if I were a witch and Maggie showed up one day, that's exactly what he would do, is sit on my cape. That's his personality for sure. I'm out of order here because I know this was Oreo's page from Botanicum. I did this one with iridescent gelatos in the background, gel pen, and I think some just water-based markers. So, yeah, okay, now I think we're caught up. 2022. Again, not really in a ton of order here. My Foxy February attempt for 2022 was this one from Anamorphia by Kirby Rosanna's. This one I felt a lot better about. I stuck to just one color for here. Again, gelato base with a pencil on top. Kept him I wanted like an Arctic fox. And so just use a little bit of gray gelato over there. I used gelato and smeared it to try to create this Aurora Borealis look. And I really love how his eyes turned out. So I think it's a really neat, when you look at the Foxy February from the previous year and look at this one, like what I learned and how I applied it, like I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, last year was really when I started getting into some real use of watercolor as a base, as its own picture. Autumn Charm, I worked on this one. This is 2021 and 2022. Arteza Real Brush Pens. It turned out stunning. These pictures turn out stunning, but I have a really hard time staying motivated with them, even if there's a cat in the picture. I don't know why. I think it's just because they take a lot of time, and I have to work on them in batches. But that was all Arteza Real Brush Pens, and it turned out beautiful. Started getting a lot into watercolor, playing around with Amazon paper, 50 Jungle Miniatures. Of course, you can tell a lot of these pages got real. This is what happens when you start using a bunch of water in a 50 image Amazon book, is the pages start getting really loose and bendy. This was all using like an Inktense palette I'd gotten and stickles. Didn't treat the paper at all. So did a lot of, this was Inktense pencils instead of the palette, which worked really well as a whole, but when I use them on big areas like this, they get a little wavy looking. I don't know how else to explain that. I done just a marker page with gel pen, another just marker page. Alright, so this one was marker with some sort of watercolor background. This was where I used all watercolor, and I was trying to learn how to layer the watercolor on and not use pencil or anything else. And this is a very this is one of my first attempts. As you can see, it was a learning experience. I did treat this page. Did that one with marker. I also treated this page with I think satin glazing liquid, and this one turned out so much better. Did a lot better layering the all watercolor, except for a little bit of gel pen on the eyes. And that weird like poop brown background I thought was weird, but it actually worked for the picture. So, and then I did another similar one here. Can't remember what I used. And then this one I used Caran d'Ache Neocolor Tooth and some gel pens. I treated this page? I treated this page. And so I was going to work my way through this book, and as you can see, I've got quite a few pages, and then I just stopped. Kind of like the Hannah Lynn book. I also got really into pastels last year. I tried 3 different types of pastels: Cute and Magical by Alexandra Franzese. Where are you? This was with the Pebble Chalk shading. So it's a marker background and then using Pebble Chalk for the shading. That actually turned out quite cute. Cute and hoppy. I did with my favorite way to use pastels, which is the pastel pencils. Was a marker base with pastel pencils on the top. That ends up being my go-to to this day. Still my favorite way to use them, and you'll see that in a bunch of pictures coming up. In Country Chibis, I did this one, which was marker with pan pastel over the top, which also turns out good, but pan pastel's expensive and you can easily oversaturate the image. So I would say pan pastels are like my second favorite thing to use, but I really like pastel pencils, as you will see as we're going through here. Oh, speaking of watercolor, one of my favorite pictures I did was from Country Charm. I did this entirely in watercolor. Treated the page and then just used layers of watercolor like you would normally, and it turned out so pretty. I love my cat. I always spend so much time on the cats and they always turn out great. But this picture actually turned out quite nice. If I had the patience, I would love to do this again and do this more. So yeah, last year was really kind of a watercolor journey for me, if you will. And man, oh my gosh. I also did just a small page in pencil last year. Oh, this was actually from a couple years prior. I used polychromos in this book. Oh, so it wasn't this one. It was the summer one. Where's the summer one? Is it in here? I don't know. There's another one. I don't know where I put it. Oh, this was from last year too. From Grimm Fairy Tales. I did this one, treated it and used watercolor and then pencil. And I know it's a little risque, but I love the bears. I think it's super cool. I really like this one. And either last year or the year before, I did this one, Dragons with Pets. This is from Dragons and Beasties by Becca Gollins. I have not come back to these books yet, and I really should. I did this one just like the front cover, using marker blends. To this day, this is one of my top 5 favorite pictures. I want to frame this one. He's just, it turned out so beautiful, just with the slightly darker outline on him and then the blending of the markers there. I don't know, it was simple, but it's just beautiful. Sometimes simplicity is the way to go. And like I said, markers with pastel pencils really became a big thing for me last year. I did a lot like that. Joshua Dunbar, I did a lot of his pictures last year, or 2021, 2022. These are 2022. A lot of these are in my coloring chats. I did one within worlds using, starting to get into the shiny watercolors, like the metallic and glitter based watercolors. That was all this picture, and then I added a little bit of pastel pencil on top, but I thought this picture just turned out so cool. And I used a lot of those. I think it was the Renaissance colors I used in this one. One of my top 5 favorite pictures I did in Grains of Gold was this. The Space series. Just love it. I used gelatos as a base. Used their space color palette. I can't think of what's actually called, but like the names on the gelatos are like Mars, Odyssey, Satellite. Used all those and then blended in my own colors for like the ship and their gear, which was funny because I actually had those colors and I naturally made those colors, which I thought was funny. I just couldn't find them previously. And then I used some gel pen, and I'm so proud of this picture. To this day, it's still one of my favorites. And like I said, I really did a lot of watercolor testing. I found in my Hannah Carlson books, I like the paper better when it's treated, when I'm using the Neocolor 2s. So this was all Neocolor 2 based with satin glazing liquid as base, and this one was untreated. I find that if I'm using the Neocolor 2s, they blend better with a satin glazing liquid, some sort of protectant, but I don't like how pencils go over it. As in this page, I love how the pencils went over the original paper, but it took more effort to get the background to blend. So really was planning to get back to this book, and I have not. This is by far the most Hannah Carlson I've colored. In terms of news last year, like, it was a pretty quiet year until towards the end of the year. I got into these things called Woobles, which are these little amigurumi crochet kits, and I have a zillion of them now. I did like 4 of them, and I need to do more of them because I'm obsessed, and I've bought a bunch, and I just haven't had a chance to do them. Like I said, I got a lot into watercolor. This I did in honor of Tammy Colors 2. It was a bit late for her birthday, but I did this one based on her cat Domino, who reminds me a lot of Oreo. I did a watercolor base and then pencils on the top. I think it was Arteza. This turned out, again, so simple, but I just love the brightness of this picture. And I love this book, the cat coloring book. Love it. Really did a lot of coloring last year. At least the first 7-8 months. I really did. I'm actually quite proud of myself as I look at the stack. 80s New Wave. This is one of my favorite Joshua Dunbar pictures. We did this one, and it was marker base with like Derwent pastel pencils on top. Had so much fun with this. I did this in a coloring chat, and this just, I love gaming. It reminded me of just the punk period in the 80s, which was, I was still young for, but I wholly embrace. And so I knew like he was going to have the lime green mohawk, and I just, all those classic arcade colors. I don't know. This is just such a nostalgic picture for me. I love it. I had so much fun with this one. It's something about his pictures. Like, I really like, and that's part of the problem, is sometimes I look at a picture and I'm like, I want to do marker and pencil, and then I get overwhelmed and I don't start it when I should just start it. This is the one I was thinking of. I did do a just pencil picture last summer. It was this cute one with the kitty in the garden. I used the Castle Art Golds, which I thought turned out really nice in the Rita Merman books. I also started this Behemoth, which y'all have not seen since then. I did the watercolor base for this. It's Story of Precious Cat. I did the watercolor base for the pirate picture. We did a video on that. Everybody said they want me to use polychromos to shade, and we have not been back since. However, I've really been thinking about picking this up, and this is like part of my summer projects, is, or at least end of the year, is finishing this up, because that would be quite a boon to me. And we have Hello Country Fall. Okay, so yeah, got in the Wibbles, went to Too Many Games last year. That was fun. Not really. It was actually very difficult. Our plane got canceled. We had to take another flight to just get out that day. We had to go to New York, then take Amtrak down to Philadelphia to get our car. It was like the longest day ever. It was kind of neat to have, like, we called it a side quest in New York, because we took, we'd never tried Amtrak before. It was a lot of fun just to do something different, but like we went to get groceries and the power went out in Walmart. We had to walk out of there without our groceries. Like, it was like we were kind of cursed last year. Like, we had to switch rooms 2 or 3 times. Like, a whole lot of things were going wrong. It still turned out great, but it was weird, like how everything just seemed to be going wrong. So this year we're driving, which is going to be the first time we tried to drive. So this will be a lot of fun. Actually, we leave on Wednesday. So, but that happened. I decided to go with blue hair instead of my highlighted blonde hair last year, and loved that. Did that, then found out my contract was not being renewed. They were trying to reduce the number of contractors. They were restructuring, and so I had almost made it 10 years. I made it 9.5, and so I had to go look for something else, and that was in the end of July. And I found something. That it seemed to be the perfect role for me. I was able to get back into email marketing. It is for a well-known company. I'm not going to say the name. Very intense job, very different um, environment and culture as to the previous job I had. But it was also remote, which it was remote and it was a full-time job, which as a contractor, I hated not having because I didn't have vacation time, and I had to, if I took time off, it was just unpaid, and I hated not having any benefits or anything. We were using, my husband's full-time employee, so we were using his benefits, but his health insurance isn't great. So like I had been wanting to be a full-time employee for years, so I was like, remote and a job and job security, how awesome. And let me tell you, again, when you start something thinking one thing and how different things turn out like 9 or 10 months later. So that was when things got real stressful. Real stressful. Like, obviously, we've had our levels of stress over the years, but like when I got hired, I started in September. I think I had a week off between my previous job and that job. I started September of last year. When I tell you how hard the last like 10 months of my life have been, it's like somebody took the last 5 years and just condensed it into like a 10-month span. It really just feels that way. Um, I did manage to do this one right when that job started, Hello Country Fall. I was going to do a pastel pencil in this one, but then I was like, I just want to use regular pencil. It turned out so cute. So cute. Just, again, that 80s nostalgia feel for me with the kids trick-or-treating like that. And that is pretty much the last one from last year because my coloring just kind of went whoop. I went to Seattle the next week. We are getting close to the end. Holy crap. I did not expect it to be this long. It's already 3 o'clock. Um, if you're still with me, I appreciate it. Um, but that began while the salary is great, the insurance is great. The job itself, if it wasn't for the pain points, the job itself is great. The team is great. Um, it's been hella hard for 10 months to be able to color, to be able to do anything other than work and sleep. So this is the point where my coloring kind of takes a nosedive. And I've noticed, like, in looking, I don't normally look at the analytics much on my site, but I also noticed that, like, my analytics have taken a little bit of a hit, which makes sense because I'm not publishing as many pictures, not doing as many videos, and the videos I have been doing, I've been kind of, it's not been super happy upbeat very much in the last 10 months. So I'm not surprised at all. Like, I really am not. And so that was September of last year. And it really, in some ways, it feels like I've been doing this for 2 years. In some ways, it feels like it's only been 3 months. Like, just, I don't know how to explain it other than that. So I got to go to Seattle the first week after I got hired for a team offsite that was already planned, but because I was new, I was able to go and meet my team face to face because we're all remote and global, and it was really cool to get to meet everybody. It was really hard because I'm an introvert and I'm at home a lot. I don't socialize very much, and socializing is something that takes a lot of energy for me, even before I got sick, and it's been even worse since. So to have a whole week where I socialized all through the work day, and then all evening it was going to meals and going to cocktail hours and getting to know everybody and team building, which was great, but after like 3 or 4 days of that, I was completely wiped. Like, I just was, and plus it was a time difference of like 2 hours, so I was perpetually exhausted. And it was fun. I'd never been to Seattle before, so it was great to see all the buildings and like see the downtown and get to do that kind of stuff. I didn't have a chance to do very much touristy stuff because I was just exhausted. Um, but it was exciting, right? Like, I really was excited, and things have not went the way I had hoped. Um, we'll show a little bit of what I've colored since then. So, and I'll cover other stuff. Oh, this was from the pastel the previous summer. I also did this one with, what was the, oh, this was the Jane Davenport pastels. That was the very first pastel, like, marker with pastel picture I did. I like those. Those turned out really good. That was one I did the previous summer. In February, I think I did this one. It was my husband's and I, like, what, 11-year dating anniversary. So I thought it would be cute. I actually used Copics and Luminance pencils. I was really feeling luxurious and extra with this, and they actually turned out quite nice. I was really pleased with how they did on this paper. So, this is from Cute and Lovely by, it says Jade Summer, but it's Alexandra Francis. Um, I did this one in just the last few months. This is the first time I've done marker in a Camellia Angelcova book and done pencil on the top. It was Arctic pencils and Starjoys. Love it. Now the problem is I don't want to do any Camellia Angelcova pictures because now I want to put pencil over all of them, and I know it's going to take a while. And I've got to break out of this. I've got to, because I'm never going to color if I don't. But this is my all-time favorite. Again, top 5 picture. Just this little bobcat. He's so cute. This picture turned out so great. So while all this stuff's going on with work, you know, the year starts in March. We lost, so hadn't lost a cat in about a year and a half, and in February, Scamper has a mini stroke, and I have to take her to the emergency vet, and come to find out through testing she has stomach cancer. Probably has had it, by the time I talked to my vet, we realized she's probably had it for the better part of the year, so it's probably the slow lymphoma type. Chemo for lymphoma is really hard on a cat, especially an older cat. So at the time we just decided to treat with steroids, and she was doing really well. In fact, she had gained weight in the past few months. So we, you know, she wasn't gonna make it a year, but the vet was like, you know, she's probably got at least another 6 months. So things, you know, she's in good shape, all things considering. Then in March, I took Sidonia in for some testing too, because she was also not eating, and she also had stomach cancer. Unfortunately, hers was, we were guessing the fast-moving kind, is just different in how it looked. And you can do biopsies and tests for these things, but like my vet said, at this point, due to their age and the options, is it worth it to put them through surgery to know what it is, even though we're only going to treat, you know, use steroids, or, you know, what's it called? There's a word for it. Not like hospice for cats, but oh, there's a term for it. Basically keeping them as comfortable as possible. for as long as they have. And found that out about Sidonia, and not like 2 weeks, I feel like, after we found out about Sidonia, she again wasn't doing terrible. Her biggest problem was we just weren't getting her to eat. She crashed all of a sudden, again started having some real problems understanding how to drink water and stuff. And that, kidney failure and like the liver failure and like the buildup of toxins in their blood and stuff can cause disorientation too. So all this stuff I'm saying might be in their brain or neurological, could simply just be from where they're getting sick, and it's all coming, it's all causing issues. But she crashed really hard and we could not get her back. And so in the middle of March, I had to let her go. And I remember telling you guys about this, and I felt so bad because I always love doing coloring chats with Joshua Dunbar's pictures, and this is one of his latest forest animal mandalas. And we did this picture. This was also marker. Oh, this was marker with the Arctics pencils on top, or maybe it was the Arctics. It was some colored pencil on top, and I actually loved how this turned out too. So I did do a picture before the other one. But anyway, I felt so bad because I was doing this picture and like sobbing about it in the voiceover, and like I'm like I love showcasing his books, and I'm like, I'm sorry I'm being such a downer. But that was so hard. And then a month to the day, almost, I mean seriously a month to the day almost. We were one day short. Scamper was fine one minute and she crashed the next, and they found that it had metastasized to her spine, was causing some spine degradation issues. She had just went in that Monday and she was fine. She was, one of the problems she was having was because of the spine degradation, she was a little wobbly between that and the gabapentin. So we knew, she had had a couple good months, and she'd even gained weight since the last visit. And what cat on cancer gains weight? She does, because she was just amazing. Never acted sick really up until the last few hours, and I haven't had a chance to really talk about it in detail. And that was in April, and here we are in June, and I'm still not. I'm getting close to being ready to talk about it, but I'm still not 100% ready to talk about it. Because that was, that first summer I lost 3 cats over a couple months, but like I've never lost them back to back like that, and especially 2 that I had bonded so much with in the past year. Just as cats have passed away, other cats, as they've gotten older, have mellowed out, and I've actually gotten closer to as they've gotten older, because the hierarchy changes in the house, and then all of a sudden I have like my coloring assistants, which were Sid and Scamper, and so I haven't really done a whole lot this year. The last thing I've really been working on since April, I picked up this book, and it was a buddy color with Poet Spice and Christina's Art Corner, and I'm going to show up my finished pictures at the end of the month, but I can show it to y'all now. Is this one, and it's a gelato base with Prismacolor pencils over the top, some shimmer paint, and some gel pen. I feel like this is a nice kind of roundup of my 5 years, because the only thing that's not in here is alcohol marker, which is a part of me, but like taking a bunch of the stuff that I've used over the years and just using it all in a picture, using all kinds of different things, is like my favorite thing to do. Really, when I have the time, is I'm at my most creative, and I am really into what I'm doing when I can do that. I'm always into it, but like this just feels like where I can really showcase being creative, and I have so few opportunities where I feel like I can do this. We're coming up on 2 hours. Wow. I guess this would have been adequate for a live stream, but can you imagine with like all the extra questions and stuff in the live stream how long this would have taken? But So, yeah, two cats lost. I did go to Seattle at the end of May. That one was harder. I had a massive project at work that I've really been working on like majorly since February, but like April and May were the months where we had to get the project ready to launch. And um, I knew this job would be intense because that's to be expected at this company and the culture. It was going to be intense. It's a high performing type of role. There's a lot to do. You know, I knew all this going into it, and I knew it would be different, but this is like it's an unsustainable level because there's a hiring freeze, and right now it's better, but boy, that first 10 months, about it, I've felt mentally a lot. It's been difficult. Physically, I've not been feeling as well physically with it. But when I got all that stuff done and I was in a race to get, that deadline met, then I had to go to Seattle for a week and do the socializing thing again. And my energy level at this trip was like so different than the previous trip. I had to miss a few outings and stuff just because I did not have the physical ability to do all the things. I had to rest. And that's where I'm at right now, is just in a got to rest and recover phase, in a trying to find out what's coming next phase, because um, since I've been hired, there have been more than one round of layoffs, and they are trying to revoke virtual work in favor of going back to the office. And probably shouldn't have said either one of those things, but at this point, I'm pretty frustrated, to say the least, because there were a lot of benefits to this job that I was told would stay in place when I got hired, and I have not I've not had that feeling of job security that I was hoping for. And where I live, going to the office is a very huge endeavor for me. And with my medical issues is just something I've worked virtually for 10 years. I obviously have the performance and the skills to show for it because I was able to be hired at this company. It's very aggressive interviewing and hiring place. So I deserve to be able to work remotely is what I'm saying. And I know some people are probably grumbling about it. There's so many propaganda pieces out there right now about the ills of working from home, because basically big corporations want you to go back in the office. Um, and for reasons not what they're saying. They're saying, it ain't productivity, trust me. It's nothing like that. It's commercial real estate. Um, and these days I'm kind of feeling like instead of wanting a high performing employee, they just want a butt in a seat in Nashville. And it's really hard to feel that way when you've put so much into a job in 10 months. I mean, met every deadline, exceeded deadline, or it exceeded expectations at times, met every tough deadline that's been set, shown that I can produce and perform at the level expected of me, and at home, mind you. Um, so I'm trying to see what the future's going to be. Because I honestly don't know right now. It's kind of been up in the air since about March or April. Um, might have some decisions to make. It just, as of right now, everything's kind of just staying as is. I am continuing to work remotely for now, but I do not feel secure where I am at right now, and it's very hard with things going on the way they are right now. And like I said, just the past 10 months has been such a toll on me. And it's affected my ability to color. It's affected my ability to do any of the hobbies I enjoy. And a lot of my stuff has sat here unused. The real impact y'all have seen on this channel is the influx of new books that have come in the last 4 or 5 months because my hobby's been book buying. So I guess to round it out, what do I see for the channel this year? What do I see for the future? I'm not going anywhere. That I do know. Like, I haven't suddenly just decided I don't like coloring, which my husband's probably hearing me say that and going, thank God. Because all the stuff I have, what would I possibly do with all of it? But like, it's not that I don't want to color. It's just I'm so mentally drained and I'm so in desperate I'm burnout. I'm in a burnout phase. Have been for a number of years, but just able to keep it manageable. But like this past 10 months and everything that's happened has just really just fully pushed it out. And I don't know when I'm going to get out of that. Don't know when I'm going to recover. And a lot of it's going to hinge on what happens in the next few months. But what I would like for this to happen is for things to continue to be maybe, things are super calm at work right now, but it needs to be a little busier. We're all on PTO and stuff, so that's why things have slowed down a bit, but different people are out. And, I'd like for things to settle to a manageable level at work, where it's not so overwhelming. And I think in this next quarter it will. I would like to get back into, actually coloring, doing coloring chats, not having just all kinds of crazy things going wrong all the time. Like right now, Bagheera's having some weird symptoms and he's throwing up and he's got a vet visit tomorrow before I leave, and I'm scared there's something going on with him. Like it feels like right now it just never stops. I keep getting kicked in the stomach. Everything calms down for a couple weeks and I get kicked in the stomach again. I would like for that to stop, but I can't necessarily control that. But if things are going to calm down to a manageable level, you will see me coloring more. I am more into kind of a pencil phase right now. I was sitting here thinking right before this video, I said, I think about where I was at 5 years ago in terms of, and what's funny too is I'm having some weird stomach symptoms in the last 2 or 3 weeks. That's been kind of on again, off again. That's not like my gastroparesis symptoms. So it's kind of funny because I'm in kind of the same spot I was 5 years ago, where I've lost cats almost back to back. I'm having stomach issues again. My work life and professional life is extremely stressful and is causing me health issues mentally and physically. Like it feels weird, like I've somehow went back in time. And I think that's one of the reasons I've been drawn to using colored pencils more is it slows me down. It slows down my thought process. So I can't say with absolute assurance where I know like watercolor summer is going to start. Am I going to be able to get as much done as I did last year? Yeah, probably not. But there are some things I would like to do. I'd like to do more pictures that have just watercolor in them. What was another idea I had? Definitely using it more as a base. There were some other ideas I had and I've lost it. So this summer is the summer I hope things get figured out. At least so I know, so I'm not in this, I feel like I'm in a perpetual waiting period right now. We can't really move forward with any major work on the house, which we're in a waiting period kind of regardless, because it's really kind of looking at the greater economy and stuff too, because you keep hearing people scream recession and inflation and stuff like that, and then this whole deal with, like, you know, we just don't really want to make any major financial investments right now, because into the house, into a new vehicle or anything, until we know what's what, right? So we're kind of in this holding pattern, which is really uncomfortable to be in, let me tell you. And I am trying to figure out how to cope and recover from burnout while still being able to work a high performing job. Um, because I'm just out of juice, like, completely. I'm really looking forward to this trip. I think it's going to help immensely. This month has been a huge help, just in the last 2 weeks, but I'm still not where I need to be yet. And so, like I said, we're going to do watercolor summer. I do have some things I want to do with watercolor this summer. So that's why we're doing the tag. I will probably be doing more pencil pictures, at least for a while. I'm going to really start pushing myself to get back into my books, even if I'm just using my markers, and being okay with good enough, because right now I just want to do all the things right, and the way, like, again, it feels very 2018-ish, for me. It's weird. It's very weird how this is going to be a therapist talk, how I feel like I've just went around in a big old circle. I hope not, but it's kind of how it feels. And then for the next 5 years, I mean, coloring's going to be a part of my life, I foresee, for the rest of my life. In what capacity? A lot of it's going to depend on my mental health. It's going to depend on my eyesight, which, you know, and life changes and stuff like that. I want things to calm down enough, and I want to be able to manage my work-life balance enough to where I can be more creative in my coloring, which I feel like's been sorely lacking, in the past almost year. But yeah, just gonna keep chugging along as we're doing. I don't anticipate anything major is gonna change in terms of how I do content on this channel. I'd like to get back to doing a video during the week, because right now you're just getting weekends. But no, I think we're just gonna keep plugging along. I don't, I like doing tags. I like doing buddy colors and stuff like that. But, like, so this channel's like my hobby, my outlet. I even if I'm in a situation where I'm unemployed, I don't ever see, now I can't say 100% sure, but I don't ever see myself transitioning this into a this is my livelihood channel, because I have seen what happens when you try to monetize your hobbies and then suddenly they just become not fun, at least for me. And um, I'm going to color what I like, when I like, and, you know, hopefully you guys come along for the ride. Always happy to take suggestions and try different stuff. I never have a problem with that, but, like, this is, I just kind of do my own thing. I don't offer a lot of tutorials or color alongs. I could get to the point where I feel like I could develop enough and grow enough to do that, but that's not what I want right now. So I don't anticipate any of that changing anytime soon. Might still do an occasional color along. Like, I'll just tell y'all what I'm using and stuff like that. I can show y'all stuff that I learned, but, like, I don't ever see this turning into where I get like a Patreon and all this other stuff. And I love, there are people I subscribe to. I love people that do it. Go get that. What's the term? Oh, what do they call it now? whatever, go, do whatever you need to do. Like, I support anybody that's doing that. I'm just saying it's not something I want to do, I guess. So just kind of the same. I mean, I don't see my coloring tastes have changed over the years. So I'm sure I will get into different things over the years as time goes on, but for the most part, I think I'm pretty happy with where we're at here, and that's kind of just around here how things are going to roll. What I want is for more upbeat, positive, fun stuff to happen. I would like to do more live streams. I would like to have more. I think of myself as a funny person, and a lot of you seem to really enjoy my sense of humor. So I would like to have more opportunities where I can be funny on the channel and be upbeat. But life's gotta help me out a little bit there. I mean, yeah, I'm a pessimistic person by nature, but I kind of feel like there's not, I'm not, I don't know. I don't feel like there's a lot to be optimistic about. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be, though. I'm really trying. Um, if you have watched this whole thing, this is where we're at. That is, I mean, to be fair, that's 5 years. It's not like I'm just talked about, hey, I've been around for a year. I mean, this is 5 years of my life I've basically chronicled, so I can see why it takes 2 years. But yeah, if anybody wants to know basically why I am the way I am right now, the past years have had a lot to do with it. We've went from 11 cats to 4. And, or, well, 11 cats down to like 6, back up to 8 to like 4. And that's been a tough thing this year too, is I I was talking to my therapist about it, and I don't know if I fully processed everybody's loss over the past 5 years. And they've all been like family to me. So I mean, that's like nine cats? Hang on. Now I can't even remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, it's 9. I've lost 9 family members in 5 years. I mean, it's tough. It's real tough. And I need to deal a lot with that. And so that's why I'm saying I think I'm just still going to need some time. Even worst case, if I find myself with a whole lot of extra time here soon, I'm still going to need some time to kind of recover and deal with it, because I've stuffed some stuff down when I shouldn't. And like I said, I have a therapist. I really like her. At least for now, I've got her. And just need to take some time to work through some of that. And I'm going to talk about that some on here. Yeah, okay. This is really long. So, I know, like I said, I definitely want to be more upbeat and positive on the channel. I don't disagree with that. However, if anybody gets annoyed because I talk too much about like mental health, or I talk too much about chronic illness, and this might not be the place you want to be, because from the beginning, from 2018, I've been very open about those. One of the biggest things I've found is that when life feels out of control and you can't figure out what's going on with your health, you can't figure out what's going on, and you're dealing with all this stuff, there is some comfort in knowing that other people out there are also dealing with it, so you don't feel so alone. I know a lot of people are in situations with family and friends where maybe you don't have a supportive network, and so you feel like you have to bottle this stuff up, and it makes you feel alone. And I have no problem sharing, weirdly, with strangers on the internet. I have more of a this is the therapist thing. I have more of a problem sharing with the closer people in my life than I do with strangers on the internet. I know that's a thing. That's one of those flags that the therapist probably needs to be made aware of. She is relatively new, so I've finally been starting to open up a little bit about my past for her. Um, but like, I've made no qualms about it. I talk about those things openly on here because it is a form of therapy. I feel like it helps people to hear people talk about it in a real sense. I've had a lot of people in my life that have told me to just get over it. Oh, if you just think positive, you'll feel better. If you just go out and take a walk, you'll feel better. I'm not saying any of those things are harmful or don't do them or don't try them. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying there, if you're dealing with stuff like that, some people think you can just put a band-aid over it and everything's fine, and it's not. It don't feel like if you go start taking walks every day and you feel a little better, but it's still not fixing the key problem. Don't feel like there's something wrong with you because of that, because that's a walk every day is not going to cure severe depression. Like, it'll help some, but like you got that core, some of those core issues there. Chronic illness, exercise can actually be harmful if you do too much too fast. Like, so just anyway, I want to be open. I want to be honest about how I'm feeling, even during the bad times, because I just want to be real about it. I feel like people just make too light of it. That's one of the reasons I'm so COVID cautious. Long COVID is a thing. It is a chronic illness. I do not need that in my life on top of everything else I have, so I continue to be cautious when I go out. I continue to mask. I continue to avoid big crowds. Try not to dine indoors if I can avoid it. And I will continue to advocate for that. And like I said, if you have a problem with that, there's the awesome thing about the coloring community is there's so many coloring channels now on YouTube, and I love it. And I hate it. Actually, I hate it in some ways because I can't ever keep up with everybody because I just don't have the time. But like, there's so many people out there with so many different styles and ways of doing things that I encourage you to go find somebody else. If you don't like what I'm talking about, you will find somebody that you like. I encourage you to go do that, and that's cool. I take no offense at that. It's just I'm gonna be me, and I'm gonna continue to be me, and acknowledge where I need to change things, but also being real and honest about how I feel and not trying to sugarcoat it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, I have talked enough. I'm exhausted. Like I said, I've been having stomach issues on and off, and I've had them again this weekend. I really struggled in whether or not to make this video today, but I wanted to make it now. There may be a chance you only get one video next weekend. We're going to see how the next 2 days go. But with this big behemoth of a video, I feel like you have plenty if you missed out. So, yeah, if you stuck around, I guess, we're not going to do a slideshow. It's too long. I will say, though, thank you to those of you that do come and watch the videos, that do cry with me, that do grieve with me, that are supportive, that understand, that have lost your own pets, your own family in these years that I've lost mine. To those of you that participate in my live streams and laugh with me, and when I start talking about politics and crazy stuff, like, y'all are just supportive. Like, for someone who I have my immediate family. I have my parents, my brother, and I have my husband, and I have friends that I've met through this channel. And if it wasn't for the friends I've met through this channel, I don't feel like, other than my family, I would have a support system at all. And I have a lot of trouble making and keeping friends just because of trust issues I've developed over the years and da 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 da. And, um, but I feel like you guys have helped fill in some of that gap, and I do feel like I do have a support system, a significant support system, thanks to y'all. And I just cannot express to you how much that means to me, what that has done for me, and all these losses over the years. I mean, like I said, 9 cats in 5 years. It really, I didn't know until today how many. And it's probably going to be the rest of, other than Leroy, hopefully. I mean, the rest of them are older, and it would surprise me if I still have them 2 to 3 years from now. So, it's not going to be any different. But it's just, like I said, you guys have been supportive through it all. I cannot believe 3,000 people have subscribed to this channel. I mean, when I tell y'all I started this channel and I was like, I might have some family that subscribes to it but never watches it. I might have a couple dozen people, right, that I tell, oh, I have a channel too, and they subscribe and they never go watch. And it's like me and 5 people or something. But when I tell y'all, I would have never. And I know, like, it hasn't grown as fast as some channels do, and it's growing faster than some channels do, but it's like, I'm not really doing anything to, like, grow my numbers. It's just naturally, you know, I just can't believe 3,000 people care what I have to say on the internet. Okay, well, maybe not. Maybe just 3,000 you like looking at my pictures. And that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So 3,000 of y'all like looking, and even that's shocking to me that 3,000 people would look at my colored pictures. So I would have never guessed that. And that's been a good thing. I do need to do a better job of, focusing on the good things that do happen. And that's been a really big surprise and a pleasant surprise. And I don't feel like I've done those 3,000 people justice much in the last 10 months, but I want to change that. So that's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, there has been my life in this channel and my coloring. Just basically my journey for the last 5 years, which is why I think I'm going to title this. Y'all got a little bit of everything, I guess. And that's where we're at. And like I said, just the big things for the future is I anticipate we're just going to keep maybe getting back to some energy from previous years in terms of creativity. Like last year, I feel like it was a really good year for me in terms of creativity, at least the first half of the year. I would like to get back to early 2022 energy on this channel. Like I really would. That's where I feel like I would do best. So bringing some more positivity to the channels, like the big thing I want to do, but like in terms of, do I see this going anywhere, like in changing in any massive way? No. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Coloring, I feel like it's done nothing but grow. A lot of people don't think it's growing, but to me, the difference I see between 2018 and now is like huge. I think it's going to continue to be a thing because the world's kind of on fire right now, and I feel like we all need things to distract us. Some distraction is healthy, right? And so I think a lot of people are going to continue to turn to coloring as a hobby. There will be people that don't want to do it anymore, but I think more people will come on board because I don't think things are going to get a lot better in the next 5 years. That's the pessimist in me, but I'll be honest with you. I'm not liking our long-term outlook here in terms of, things getting drastically better in the next 5 years in the U.S. So I think coloring will grow. I think the coloring community will grow as long as we keep it relatively, I think as long as we keep it low-key and positive like we have, I think, and with more people, always comes more drama. But I think as long as we keep be supportive like we are and stuff, I think you know, continue to be a pretty big thing. And even if it's not, you know, I'm still going to be in my corner doing my thing. So that's the one thing I guess y'all can count on me, if nothing else, is going to be consistency. Maybe not consistency in how I post my videos, but consistency in that I'm going to be here coloring. It may be I take breaks once in a while, but I'm just going to be here coloring 5 years from now, probably still doing this. So anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this channel, being a part of my life. Like I said, whether you lurk all the time or you leave comments all the time, I see you. Even if you're hiding behind a tree, I see you. And I appreciate you. I appreciate all the people I've become friends with on this channel. Like, I thought, man, if I had the money and the time, I'd love to do like a tour one year, like a on the road coloring tour where I go and meet all these people I've met through the channel. I have 3 in particular I know for sure I would love to go meet. Might have an opportunity to meet one later this year. I still got to see if that's going to happen, but there's at least 3 people. I mean, there's more, but I mean, at least 3 people I know for sure that I'm going to meet in my lifetime. I thought that would be fun. Heck, I'd love, you know, in the next 5 years, if we could ever figure out something to fully eradicate COVID, I would love to see a color con happen. I seriously thought about it the first few years, and I thought about organizing it, and I was like, no, I don't have the energy. But man, if somebody else could, and if it was, you know, mask friendly and was really carefully done, it could be done now. But like, that would be cool. I'd like to see that happen in the next 5 years. Who knows? Anyway, all right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have a good week. I'm going to be prepping for my trip, trying to not work late on Tuesday because I have to go to my parents' Tuesday night. My husband is going to stay home, hold down the fort, and take care of the cats while I'm gone. But my brother and I are heading out Wednesday morning. I don't know, some years I do videos from there. I'll post pictures at least. I need to do more on Instagram. But I hope everybody has a good week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.